I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst. On the program, is it time to lift mask mandates?
Yeah. I mean, it should be your choice.
I'm not sure if it's time to lift mask mandates.
It's a small price to pay. It might be time we actually learn to live with COVID.
With mask mandates being in place for roughly 2 years now, we're beginning to see them removed as COVID restrictions begin to be lifted across the country. Of course, businesses and/or private residences can still keep that rule in place if they desire to do so. But with things seemingly looking up regarding the pandemic, will you still feel comfortable with people not wearing masks in public places? Our question.
Is it time to lift mask mandates?
Yeah. I mean, it should be your choice. I mean, if they're giving you the option to not wear the mask, if you want to wear the mask, go for it. Go for it. Absolutely. I work in a restaurant, so if you know, that's something that I've had to think about myself. So
personally, I think it's time. I think with what the numbers are showing and how everyone's acting, I think we're in a good place to do it, and I think everyone will be responsible when they do it.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's just caused so many problems the last few years and so much disconnect with everyone, and it's all such accusatory behavior towards each other. Like, it's very, very negative what's happened, but lifting it, I think, would ease the tension a little bit.
Okay. And you?
I don't know. I would keep it until like probably May starts and then lift it.
I do, yes.
Why?
I think at this point, if we've done what we can to mitigate COVID, and at this point it falls on the person to make the choice to whether to risk themselves going out. If they feel uncomfortable, then maybe choose not to go to a certain place.
We're not ready for that. We're not ready for that. But I mean, it's up to everybody. You know, they should decide if they want to wear a mask or not. But in public places, like closed places, I think we should still wear a mask.
As a person who caught COVID, I'm not comfortable being in restaurants with people who aren't vaccinated, who have no actual immunity from the virus that's going around. And now that everything's open more and more people are going to go out with more freedom, and I find that I'm very uncomfortable in these situations. It just doesn't seem like on public transportation, we should keep it on, in my opinion, in offices at their own discretion. But for the time being, I wouldn't want it to be lifted.
I think, yes, I think we're at a point where people should be able to make their own choice on what they're comfortable doing without criticism.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, I think it's time. We've had this for 2 years now, and it might be time we actually learn to live with COVID, and it might be time to make that an individual choice rather than a mandated one.
I think it's a personal thing. I think if you want to wear your mask, you should be able to wear your mask. But if you don't want to wear your mask, I'm also okay with that too. I think it's a very personal thing.
I think for vulnerable people within the community, it can be really fearful. So I don't think we should be moving on until we can all move on.
No, honestly. I know lots of people who have still been getting COVID or have become sick with COVID. And I do think that masking might just be a practice that we all continue doing perpetually.
I think so, not yet. It needs to be there for maybe a couple more months, and then let's see how this COVID situation is, and then you can lift it.
Yeah, it is. It's because I guess the population of Canada has reached a point where we have achieved herd immunity, and by that being said, I guess we should lift the mask mandates because it's been 2 years and it's been a long time, and it would be so nice that everybody is not able to wear masks and smile at each other rather than hide their smiles behind the mask. So
I'm not sure if it's time to lift mask mandates. Personally, I'm fine with keep wearing it. It's been so long that it doesn't really affect me. I'm fine going in somewhere and wearing my mask. But I know that a lot of people who are like immune compromised feel like it's definitely not time. And if I can make someone feel a little bit more safe by keeping my mask on, I think then we should just keep them on.
I spent the last 30 plus years in the military, so I think mandates are good because it provides a standard for everyone, especially those that can't make those decisions themselves. So I think I'm pro for mandates, but within reason, the normal balance of health, mental health, and also just practical reality.
Personally, I would feel more comfortable if I had my mask, just for my own caution. But if others feel, it's all right for them, I don't have a problem. But I can do my part in making myself feel that I'm safe.
If it makes them feel safe, I think you should wear it. If you feel like you don't need it, then it should be your choice.
We might as well just keep on going with masks until that we know the all is clear, because I know there's other variants out there and this stuff is going to resurface again. So when we drop everything, good luck trying to ratchet things down again.
But I guess I favor going slow. Masks are not a big deal. It's a minor inconvenience. People who whine about it make me unhappy.
For me, I don't think it's the right time yet to get the mask off, but I do respect other people's opinions on how they have the option of having it on and off, if you choose to. But yeah, for me, I'd say it's way too fast to lift up the mask mandate.
I think that mask mandates depend on medical advice. So I will take medical advice from qualified people. And it seems that we can certainly lift them in some situations. I'm not wearing a mask right now. I'm outside and I'm 6 feet away from you. But I just went into the Forks and I put on my mask. So I think we can use common sense, but I realize that I agree with Oscar Wilde that common sense is the most uncommon thing in the world.
In recent times, governments in Canada have had to make decisions they've never had to make before. Mandating people to stay home, rules about vaccinations and travel, and of course, what our role will be in Ukraine. We sent our cameras out to ask Canadians if they feel this country is on the right path. Our question.
Is Canada moving in the right direction?
Yes, but I don't believe in linear progression in history, and so I think that while right now I see some really great things that are happening, I don't necessarily know that that's going to, it's only going to go up from here. I feel like that's a little too optimistic.
I definitely have some concerns about some things, some trends, but generally Canada, yes, I think Canada's doing the right things in the larger picture, yeah, I would say so, yes.
From an economic standpoint, no. Mr. Trudeau is just spending money like it's going out of style. He's just nuts with his money spending. And we've got to tighten up there because it's all going to come back on us, the people, in form of, as interest rates rise, we think about our mortgages and that sort of thing, but the real bottom line is Canada's debt is tied to those interest rates affect Canada's debt more than anything else. And we're going to have less and less money available to spend on social services because we're servicing this great big debt that he's running up and doesn't stop.
I think Canada's taking the right steps to fight against the virus. It's just that few things that I'm really not a fan of, like how the housing prices here is really high. As an international student, it's really hard on me. And then the gas prices. So if you want me to list, it just keeps going on. But for now, I feel like Canada's doing well.
We never know. Inflation might just skyrocket again. So I just like to hope so. That's all we can do right now is just hope. Hope for a better life with the new mask restrictions. Just hope for peace for Ukraine. Hope for everything. So I would like to hope so.
I mean, I'd hope so. I think so. I think that, we still try to stick to our rules of democracy, and considering what's going on in other parts of the world, I mean, we're pretty fortunate to be here where we are.
Well, I think we're trying, because, in all the countries I lived, I think Canada is the most democratic one. So I think, we're moving in the right direction.
I think we've taken a step back with the economy, the inflation the way it is, deficits the way it are, and spending the way it is. Indigenous, we've made no progress in that community as well. It remains to be seen what's going on in the Ukraine right now, but I think as far as that is, we're probably helping out where we can.
I'll speak on the Indigenous part because I don't think that they're doing enough, for sure. The water there on their reserves are terrible. Their living situations alone are terrible. And I don't think there's enough support in that sector at all.
Personally, I have no problem with the direction the country's moving in. I think a lot of the problems have to do with what people read and see on the news platforms and on social media. I'm sure as long as you get the correct information and you see what's going on around Canada and around the world, I think we're doing just okay. And I really believe that we're just as free as we've ever been.
I think the biggest challenge facing us is climate change. I think we're not moving anywhere near far enough on that. I actually expect my grandchildren's lives to be worse than my lives, just as my lives were better than my parents' lives, and that saddens me. But I don't view that as the kind of tactical political gotcha question. I don't think it matters a lick which government we'd have in power. I would say the same thing.
I would say no. I think the Liberal government has not acted well over the last term, for sure. And I think they're being a little irresponsible fiscally. And I think many different things could have been put in place to both combat COVID and also keep the economy going.
Yes, generally speaking, yes, I think so. I think the government, the federal government did right to support small, medium-sized business when the crisis hit. But also hoping this inflation can settle down or not as steep as now. I do think the government during the pandemic did the right choice for the country to move forward, so for the business to be at least not suffering from this pandemic.
Honestly, how I feel as a Canadian right now is disappointed in the government's handling of the pandemic. I lost my job, or I had to retire early because of the mandate, so it's affected me. And so, yeah, I'm not happy about the direction we're heading in that aspect.
Canada as a nation, yes, I definitely think we're moving in the right direction. I get very frustrated with people protest and don't think we have freedoms. And man, you can't beat this. We have all the freedom in the world.
How many women have served as Minister of National Defence in Canada? 1, 2, or 3?
I think it's 1. I'd say 2.
I'll go for the middle ground. I'll say 2.
1.
1.
1. Anita Anand.
2. 3.
The answer is 2. Oh. High five each other, boys. It's all good. Thanks, guys.
The number of women to serve as Minister of National Defence in Canada is 2. Kim Campbell served as Minister of National Defence for 6 months between January and June of 1993, making her the first woman to occupy the job. She, of course, went on to be the first female Canadian Prime Minister. More recently, on October 26, 2021, Anita Anand was sworn in as the second woman to occupy the role of Minister of National Defence. She is also the first woman of Hindu heritage to become a federal cabinet minister.
This pandemic has made it much more difficult for younger Canadians to invest in their future. Rising interest rates, soaring housing prices has made it virtually impossible for young people to buy a home, pay affordable rent, or even earn a living wage. And things are expected to keep rising in the immediate future. So we took to the streets to ask Canadians if they feel confident about their money in the long term. Our question:
are you feeling optimistic about your financial future?
Not at all. Just the matters of buying a house, I believe it's just because I'm single as well. It's just not something I can afford. I'd have to go back to school, get in debt for that, and then try to figure it out. Like, I didn't have any of my parents' help as far as, a lot of kids have people that help them pay for their down payments. I do have money in the bank, but it's just not enough. So.
I feel the exact same way, especially with having 2 small kids and trying to make a future for them and a future for myself. I am still young, but at the same time, I don't think we're ever going to catch up to where our minimum wage is and where our living expenses. I don't think the country will ever catch up to it. They'll never even out.
Well, the housing prices are skyrocketing, so that's pretty crazy. Rent is pretty expensive now, which is insane. But, you know, it would be better if it went down, because then, you know, minimum wage is $14, $15 an hour. So I think if people could get more, that would be awesome.
Savings. I've just learned for the last few years to just save everything you have, anything you can, go thrifting, save on coupons, whatever you can. I mean, is anyone's future stable at this point? I don't think so, but be prepared. Being prepared will get you anywhere, really.
We try actually to be positive as much as possible, especially we come back from a country which suffers much more than here. So we have inflation, we have no economy, we have nothing. So you could, like, the minimum wage is now like $70 there, which is barely enough to eat. So per month. So anything that happens here is going to be even much bearable than whatever happens there. So
I am. Now, I actually work at a bank, and I'm still feeling pretty good about what's coming up in the next few years. It's been a long time since we've had any changes. I think we've been in a good spot for quite a while. So a little bump in the road here and there is coming, but I think we'll be fine, we'll recover, and everything will look good.
I'm still feeling optimistic, because I think that with inflation, a lot of it is sort of external factors pushing the country that are going to kind of work out. Of course, it causes some pressure in the near term in terms of having to scrimp on stuff that the prices are going up in, but I have confidence that as a country especially, we'll weather it.
Well, I wasn't until last week, I'm afraid to phone my my financial guy, because I'm sure that my RRSPs have gone down seriously. I don't know what the stock market results have been, but what can I do? I live on what I have, and I have enough money, and I'm more privileged than 99% of the world, so I can't really complain too much.
I'm still optimistic. I think Canada is still in a fairly good situation, but the international things that are going on are cause for concern. So all that we can do is keep on trucking and planning for the future and hoping for the best. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but there's still some cause for concern.
I am, yes, because I just retired from the military, and the government in Canada takes care of their veterans, so I don't have any issues with that. But I do worry about my kids who's starting out, for sure.
I think in the future, it's already tough as it is, but yeah, I'd say that in the future it'll get just tougher, if I might have to say. Yeah, like with how in my age bracket, we're already trying to save up for houses and stuff, but it's so hard because of like living day to day, like the prices of day to day is just too much for us to actually save up.
That's a tough one.
yeah, not right now.
Yeah, not right now, not yet, but soon enough.
Yeah, everything's becoming more expensive, right? Especially with the wars going on in the East. So I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon, especially with the prices of real estate going up. I don't think we'll be able to afford housing or anything like that. Well, I'm coming out of a 4-year degree, so not really feeling great about my financial future, but yeah, I guess trying to stay positive, but it is a lot to think about.
I really haven't thought too much into it, but I really hope I will be able to settle here, get a proper job, and be financially stable, yes. Right now I'm completely depending on my family because it's just too expensive for me to live here. Yeah, I really hope in the future it gets better.
Definitely slightly optimistic about my financial future. I'm a student in quite a bit of debt, but I look at student debt as an investment to yourself. And with the housing prices rising in Halifax, it's a little scary. I think we're doing the right things by we're increasing the supply, we're adding more apartments, so hopefully in the long term things level out.
Yes. 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 I have been unemployed for the past year and a half due to the pandemic, but I just got a job yesterday, so gravy train for me.
People crossing the border into Canada will now have an easier time doing so. Previously, they were required to take an expensive PCR test, but now they only need to take a rapid antigen test, which is cheaper and much quicker. Also, as the trucker protests here in Ottawa and elsewhere have shown us, those who work in that industry and are not vaccinated have been complaining that COVID rules at the Canadian border are robbing them of earning their living. So, is it time to open things up? Our question.
Should all testing requirements at border crossings be dropped?
Boy, that's a tough one. I think that that's going to be tough because that's a government decision. So, personally, I think if the testing requirements can be easy and there's not a lot of waiting and it can be pretty turnkey, sure. But if it's going to cause more problems, I would say just cut out the testing.
I would say it can get loose a little bit instead of a complete drop because I do see the symptoms as getting reduced. And also, like I said, the vaccination rate is going up. We see some people like getting COVID, but instead of going to ICU. So I do think the rule should lose a little bit, but it's completely dropped, I'm not too sure.
I think testing at border crossings should be dropped. I think now, we don't even track our own cases now, so what's the point in tracking or testing people at border crossings? It'd be different if we were still tracking our own cases, but we're not.
Absolutely, they should be dropped. COVID is on both sides of the border. It's not, we're not going to stop it in either direction. We have it in Canada, we have it in the US. I just think it's unnecessary. At this point in time, when we know what we know about the virus, what we know about how it's transmitted, it's time to lift all mandates, in my opinion.
I think they should be dropped again in time, like probably by the end of the year would be reasonable. Not, of course, not speaking as a public health expert, but keeping them in place for now, it's an inconvenience, absolutely, but it certainly doesn't hurt.
I think maybe it might depend on the country, depending on their level of infection. But if we're willing to relax our rules locally, then I think that should, in terms of the states and specifically, then I think that should be relaxed to the same level.
I don't think they should be dropped, but I think within reason. So people in industry that are frequent flyers or have to drive across the borders, for sure they need to have some exemptions. But if you're going to travel right now, it's just to take care of the people on the other end and also when you come back. So I think it's reasonable if you're traveling for fun.
No, I don't think so. I know that sometimes it's been known that the tests aren't as accurate as we want them to be, but I do think that they might be at least a stop sign on the road to getting worse. So it could be catching things that we wouldn't know otherwise. So probably, yeah.
No.
Why not?
It seems like an okay thing to do, and I do travel back and forth between the States and Canada very frequently, and it's certainly a really frustrating thing to deal with, but I understand why they do it, so it makes sense to me.
I think it should, yes. I don't think that travel is an issue anymore with COVID when the pandemic first happened. I think it's in our own provinces, it's in our own little area, so I don't think testing at border crossings is going to prevent COVID or anything at this point anymore.
Yes, I think so. It has been very confusing for people who are wanting to start to travel again. Because there's PCRs, there's antigen, there's many different types of tests that take 1 day or 3 days. So people are very unsure of what tests that they should be getting. It should be a lot clearer from all countries, not just Canada.
I think it's good to do all the testing because you don't want to potentially expose more people to the pandemic. I just moved from Ontario, and I'm glad that they did the testing because once I got here, I actually tested positive and had to quarantine. Yeah, but I didn't test positive in Ontario when I left. I think so. I think that it should be dropped just because I know that you have to test when you're back, and I think that's more effective, is testing when you're back and having to quarantine based on those results. I'm just not sure how effective it is having to test right before you get into the border. it feels maybe not the best way. I think keeping up with your test results after you're here and making sure you're COVID-free when you're back is the best way. Instead of like being stuck somewhere else, having to quarantine or do something like that, it makes it a lot more difficult. And people need to travel for a lot of different reasons, so.
I don't think so, because, I mean, like COVID started by things coming into the country, so I think we should continue to regulate that.
Yeah, I think they should continue. I mean, sure, life's starting to feel a little normal here, but that can also change very quickly. So I think it's important to regulate those things over the next little bit here to see if, you know, something comes up that we haven't seen before, or, you know, maybe there is nothing, but at least, you know, a test of 30 minutes isn't going to cause you too much hassle.
For people that are fully vaccinated, yes. For those that are not vaccinated at all, no, you still keep them up. Because right now in the United States, in the last week, the other variant of Omicron is up 20-some-odd%. So there's a wave starting to happen in the United States. It's already happening in France. So who knows what it's going to be? But if you're not vaccinated, you're a really good vector for transmission. So, you know, so yeah, I support that if you're not vaccinated.
Well, I think the recent testing requirements for truck drivers, I mean, that might, we're having difficulties with the supply chain as it is. And I don't think there was a problem before when they weren't being tested. So as far as that is concerned, I'd say we drop that one. But at the same time, we need to be very careful at the border as well on who we're letting in, and we need to ask some questions.
I definitely, again, agree. I think, yeah, definitely be careful with borders. I think we want to welcome people and not deter.
No, because, we should still test people, because I believe that here in Canada, we have the most people vaccinated, but coming from South, you know, they were very, very against that. So, we have to test coming in.
You know, you don't know anybody. You know, you don't know where they've been. You don't know what community they come from. You know what I mean? Like when I go to the grocery store, I don't know if the person was at five different countries, you know what I mean, before they got back. Like, it's just one extra level of security, and I think it's different because, like, I do have two small kids, and one struggles with immunity issues, that one extra layer of protection makes me happy.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.